Welcome back to another New World video. This time I'm giving you what I think is the best overall PvE mutation, so story mode, M1, M2, M3 build to play as, especially since this is now season 4. Obviously what we're supposed to get in season 4 was the auto group finder, which means you can just press a button and it will like basically put you into a team of 5, probably 3 DPS, 1 tank and 1 healer, ready to go into any dungeon. That's been delayed. It might come out in the next month or so, or it might be officially pushed back to season 5. But either way, this build will be the perfect build to use if you're one of those players who has no one else to play with, like no guild mates and stuff like that. This is like a big all-rounder build. Spear and great axe. Plenty of good things we're going to include in this build guide video here. Obviously, there's high damage from the spear. There's rends, there's weakens, there's bleeds, there's CCs, there's controlling the mobs, which you could put into CCs. Yeah, plenty of stuff to do here. Now, all of this content that I show you here, I sort of test this stuff, play this stuff all live on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/LiamH. We are smashing numbers at the minute. The amount of views we're getting is incredible. We have Twitch drops, all that kind of stuff. If you want to come over to Twitch, that'll be amazing. Hit me up with a follow, description box down below, and let's get into the guide video. Thank you for today's sponsors of this YouTube video, Avenir and their Ascender gaming glasses range. These guys sent me these glasses a couple of weeks ago. I've been trying them out, and I'll be honest, they massively help. A couple of things on screen here that they obviously help with. They help prevent the eye strain and headaches, eliminate dry and itchy eyes, reduce trouble falling asleep at night. They protect the eyesight and health, boost focus, eye reflexes, improve hand-eye coordination, and like just your overall gaming experience. These glasses definitely help. Like I said, I actually work 37.5 hours a week at an IT job, looking at my screen. We can round that up to 40 hours. When we add on the Twitch live streaming hours as well, we add on just my general gaming, sort of outside of Twitch streaming, and also editing and making YouTube videos here and there. Guys, this adds up, and you do, you know, you get that glare from your monitor, you get the blue light, it drains you, it hurts. And a couple of years back, I did wear some gaming glasses, and I'll be honest, they really did help until I broke them. And then obviously Avenir got in touch with me via email, and I'll be honest, I've been trying them now for about 2 weeks. Like that overall just sort of like stress and sort of feeling around your eyes when you're sort of staring at your monitor for just hours and hours on end. These like, they're almost like a miracle to me, I'll be honest. And you know what, they're actually pretty nice as well. You got this design, it feels really nice. They're just to wear, they're really easy, you know, the sort of light on the head. They're not wearing some crazy glasses. I'm not like a normal day-to-day glasses wearer, so I wouldn't be used to wearing anything like these. But while I'm just sat here working away and streaming and all that kind of stuff, they really do help. And Avenir have given us a 30% discount code to use as well. I'll put a link in the description box down below if you're interested in checking out these glasses. Like I said, I can vouch for them. A couple of weeks into using these now. Really nice. They got a black variant, they got a red variant as well. Big fan of these. So if you're interested, check out the description box down below and make sure you click on my link, check them out. Okay, I'm going to start off with the skill tree for the spear. Now, there's going to be 2 skill trees that I use. It all depends on which dungeon you're in, or at least what mob types you're against. Now, when you are against ancient mobs, I'm going to be using this build, okay? Main reason why is Cyclone actually counts as strike damage, and it's a huge AoE ability, and this does some really big damage. Obviously, when we go into the weapon perks later on, you can put the weapon perk on for Cyclone. I'd probably put it on the armor, actually, sorry. And basically, it heals you, which is really good. So, overall spear build, we're including deadly reach for critical chances increased by 10% when attacking targets for 3 meters away. In fact, I'm not even going to read these out because I want to speed up this video a little bit. I'm just going to read the overall title, and then you can read the little descriptions. We're going with evasive maneuvers because we want to get down here into Cyclone and then down into invigorated combo. I kind of felt myself with an extra point when I was selecting everything else, so we went over there. Onto the impaler side of the tree, we've got precise jabs. We have got refreshing jabs, and then we're going to take skewer down 3 points. Okay, so we've got skewer, we've got deadly ambush, and we've got follow through. Over onto perforate, one of the biggest skills in the entire build and most used. So we have perforate, we have rupturing strikes, and we have impactful strikes. And onto the mini perks, we've got crippling jabs, we've got finishing blows, we have got unerring precision, down into aggressive maneuvers, exposed wounds, exacerbating crits, and all the way down into exploited weakness. So at any point during the video, you can just pause here if you want to read these, or go in game and obviously read them yourself. Now, when fighting any other mob types other than ancients, I find this to be my overall best build. The biggest change here is we are dropping obviously Cyclone for sweep. Now, it still gives you like some kind of AoE ability because you can hit multiple mobs with sweep, but this is where we can get some big damage with the bleeds if we include the weapon perk. So we're going to be using sweep on this side. we're going to be using Tenacious Sweep and also Croup de Grace. Now moving over to the Great Axe skill tree. On the Reaper side, we are obviously going to go with Reap, the Collector, Hunger, and Fatal Attraction. The mini ones we're going to be using are Critical Gains, Death's Embrace, Keen Edge, Critical Condition, and Feed. And then over onto the Mauler side, we're going to be using Maelstrom. These are two biggest skills you'll be using in this build. So you've got Maelstrom, you've got Storm's Reach, you've got Absorb, you've got No Reprieve. Over to Gravwell, we're going to be using obviously Gravity Well, Crowded Well, and Unyielding. And then the mini perks we're going to be using is Enduring Strike, Center of Attention, and Crowded Protection. Now, I want to show you a little thing. So just a generic one. I will show you some clips of in-game footage. But in general, basically you want to be sort of running as probably the last DPS player to engage. And by that, again, I'll show you some mini examples, but picture you've got your healer somewhere here behind you. You've got your other two DPS just following the tank around about here. And if these are your mobs, and let's say you got a couple mobs to the left, a couple mobs to the right, but your tank is going to be focused on the central mob, you're going to be always opening up with the Great Axe in hand. You're going to be chucking in a Gravwell. You can dodge rolling to Enlight. Use Maelstrom to pull in the mobs. If there's like one mob just sticking out, you can use Reap to pull them in as well. And then you go into your Spear, and then you'll be executing all your skills. You can do your dodge, your actual crits, and all that kind of stuff. And then here will be huge clumps of mobs, and the Bleeding Sweep is going to be pretty huge as well. So that is like your generic sort of how you enter with using this build. The main focus is to be pulling the mobs together. So you don't want to have mobs over here just hitting on their own, mobs over here just hitting on their own, and then like one or two mobs here where the tank and everybody else is fighting. Your main job is to pull all these mobs in. Now, talking about the build in general, the Gravwell, as you can see, pulls the mobs in. So anybody within this radius will be sucked into the center and has a little pop with some damage at the end. With the perks that we've chosen the skill tree as well, you also give your teammates who are inside the Gravwell a small amount of Fortify. So that's like a mini buff. When we go into Maelstrom, this is also going to pull any mobs as well that are just flicking around, maybe from the Gravwell that didn't fully pull in. You're going to be pulling them all in, and we will go into the weapon perk in a minute, but this is... Sorry, I'll show you now, it'll be easier. The biggest thing you need on your Great Axe, because it improves the percentage, is Enfeebling Maelstrom. So if you look at the perks here, Enfeebling Maelstrom, targets hit by Maelstroms, no reprieve, are weakened, reduced their attack damage by 27% for 8 seconds. Now, obviously, when it comes to boss fights in M2 and M3, this isn't as effective on the bosses, but on all the other mobs, this is 100% effective in terms of the percentage that it shows you here, so 27%. Obviously, M2 and M3 bosses reduce that 27% by 75% and 50% respectively, but for all the other mobs, that's absolutely fine. Reap in general, like I said, you're just using that to pull in any little staggering mobs into that sort of pack there, and that'll keep you going. Now, onto the Spear. So, I'm going to show you some Spear examples that I use. So, as you're going to be playing Spear main, this is going to be your main output damage. You want to be putting Enfeebling Skewer on there. So again, similar to Enfeebling Maelstrom, Skewer hits apply weaken, reducing the target damage by 47% for 8 seconds. So you want to make sure if there are multiple mobs and maybe one is just to the side of all the others, you want to be hitting the mob that's likely to do the most amount of damage with that Skewer, therefore reducing their damage. Now, one thing to note, if you have two spears, well, it doesn't matter, just two spears in general in the same group, if they are both using Enfeebling Skewer on the spear, if you hit the same mob, you don't get 2 times or double the length or anything like that of the Enfeebling Skewer. It only works once. So ideally, you only want really one main spear playing Enfeebling Skewer. Maybe one of your other teammates, let's say if they're playing Greatsword Spear, and the secondary weapon is the spear, maybe they could use Enfeebling Skewer, because at times you will hit different mobs. And I think that's absolutely fine. But what you don't really want is 2 main spear DPS players both run Enfeebling Skewer. And then a spear that they could be using instead is another version of Life Ring Spear that I use here. And that is the Bleeding Sweep version. So if I enter this, if I enter a dungeon and somebody else is already playing Spear main, and maybe they're not playing Great Axe secondary for whatever reason, and I would then probably switch to the Bleeding Sweep version. This means you're just going to be doing big output damage. One thing you could potentially do then over to your armor is put Enfeebling Skewer onto the armor perks. So therefore you have some Skewer just in case you're hitting those little mobs that maybe the main spear guy isn't. Another one you could put on there as well is Fortifying Perforate on the armor. Now it's not huge. I don't actually recommend using Fortifying Perforate on your armor if you've got really good perks on there. If you've got like Refreshing, Enchanted Ward, Health, that kind of setup of gear, I wouldn't recommend dropping an enchanted ward for a fortifying perforate, especially if you're playing light. That fortify won't do that much for you, but it's just an optional add, extra that you can do in there. Now, whilst we're obviously using the cyclone skill against the ancient mobs, you definitely want leech and cyclone, and ideally you want that on your armor as well. You don't really need it on the weapon because it's a bit too much. You want to stick to the enfeebling skewer on the weapon, but you can put the leech and cyclone on your armor, and then as you hit all of those sort of mobs, we'll show some little clips in a minute, as you hit all of those mobs, you'll basically just be constantly regenerating yourself and healing. In terms of overall armor, so we want to be playing light as well. Reason why I want to be playing light obviously is to increase base damage. I've tested this a lot as well. Maybe against boss fights in M3s, you might want to go slightly higher con than minimum, but in general, you can definitely stay playing light. You put some more DPS out. The general sort of gear that I use, I try and hit 4 refreshing. I try and hit health in all of my armor, and I try and hit enchanted ward as much as I possibly can as well. In some cases, you could even get like enchanted ward and like slash ward as well, along with health if you don't need all of the refreshing. Elemental version isn't too bad as well. So if you want to sneak that in your armor somewhere here, there, and everywhere, you absolutely can. Over into jewelry, again, if we're playing PvE here and we're playing mutations, you want the protection of the mutation, so frozen protection, fire protection, etc. You probably then want to go with empowered and health. That's pretty much the best amulet setup you can get. I believe soul pollen, which you can farm in the game, and you can also recraft this with your 3 chromatic seals to get it 700 gear score, and you can make it these 3 perks: leeching, thrust damage, and hearty. I believe they are the 3 perk bis for the ring. And then going down to earring, you can mix and match this, to be honest. I like a bit of fortifying toast. I like some refreshing. I like refreshing toast. There's also empowering toast. But the reason why I like fortifying toast is, on average, well, not on average, pretty much all the time, when you use a health pot or a regen pot, it's because you're struggling a little bit, and therefore having that extra 20% fortify, which doesn't do too much for a light user, but it's better than nothing. That can just help you sort of maintain as you're recovering with the health pots. Now, another thing I want to talk about here is the heart rune. Couple different heart runes you could use, but I love the grasping heart runes. So essentially, if you picture it again, you enter all the mobs here, you're going to chuck in a grav well, you're going to roll in, you're going to pull these guys in, and then instantly hit your heart rune, because all of the mobs that are sort of secured and pulled into the center here, you're then going to root them, which is going to keep it even easier for everybody else to be doing all of the AoE damage in these clumps. And then finally, onto the attribute split. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways you can do this pretty much. One I would say is for the beginner using this build. So you're going to lock in around about 50 con. This might sound low, but if you're a beginner, you're probably only doing story mode and like mutation 1 anyway. And I'll be honest, I really can't find scenarios where you need to go more than 50 con. Maybe just like really bad position and stuff like that, I guess. But ideally, yeah, you don't really want to be going any higher than 50 con. Now, you can use 50 intelligence. This will utilize the 5% damage increase to backstabs and random critical hits. You're a DPS player. You should always be hitting the mobs in the back. And then over here, plus 5% damage increase to targets inflicted with a damage over time effect. You're bleeding these mobs and slowing these mobs all the time. So this should always activate. You want to go high dex. Now, there is a... I've not fully tested this myself. I might do, but there is basically some scenarios where you could actually go 350 strength. And that might actually do a little bit more damage since you're mostly spamming your skills. But I like this anyway. I've never had a problem with the damage output, so I'm going all the way up to 350 dex, and then we're chucking on as much strength then as we possibly can, so we can maximize that spear damage. Now, quickly, as you've noticed here on my attributes, you've noticed how I've got like 15 in here and stuff like that. That is because at the moment I'm using the attune level pants. We are in a light build. If you find, even at this attribute split at 50 con, you're brand new to this build or whatever, you're brand new to endgame dungeons, if you're really struggling, I would drop the attune leather pants and I would go with the featherweight jacket. Now, the reason why I go with the featherweight jacket is therefore you can then use some heavier pieces of overall armor to stay in light, but you'll get more armor than this here 970 and 882 of the physical elemental split. So if you are actually struggling at 50 con, consider dropping the attune leather pants, go in featherweight chest, and then bulking up some heavier pieces, so then your overall armor is more, therefore you should help you with the defense a little bit more. Now, coming into sort of like intermediate a little bit here, this is where you want to start dropping your con down a little bit. Maybe you start to play into some M2s and maybe just test some M3s possibly. Yeah, we're just going to drop the con down to 25 again with the attuned pants at the moment, and then we're going to keep that strength high, we're going to keep the dex high, we're going to keep in the 50 int, and then finally this is where you want to be aiming. So like I said, we've had some suggestions of playing the over 350 strength. Now, because of the amount of magnify, I can't go exactly 350 and then use these extra points to go into dex. So we'd have to lie somewhere around here unless we drop a bit more int. So we can get up to here for the extra empower, which isn't a bad option. But overall, you might want to try and aim for the 350 strength, then as much dexterity as you possibly can after having the 50 int. So if you don't have as many magnified pieces as me, this is overall where you want to be aiming. This will give you a really, really high damage output. It'll give you a really good, like everything that we've been talking about earlier on. Well, also with the 15 con as well, by the way, I've played many M3s now. Unless your position is really, really bad, 15 con is absolutely fine. Obviously, you'll be getting some sort of group fortifying in there. You'll be sat there or thereabout in the sacred, behind the mobs, obviously, so you shouldn't be taking as many or as much damage as like obviously the tank should be doing. If your positioning is good, and all that kind of stuff, and all the other bits and bobs of extra, like we've already been discussing, you're using your enfeebling skewer a lot, you know, your CC in the mobs as a group. I think 15 con is absolutely fine. We played many M3s. Again, jump into my Twitch channel if you want to come and see me play these builds live. But yeah, these are your attribute splits anyway, and these are how I'd play it for a sort of beginner and intermediate, and then going into slightly more advanced. And there it is. There is my great axe and spear build. I believe this is a pretty sort of multi-purpose build when it comes to mutations. And honestly, when you go to group finders and you're looking to join, you'll see even a lot of the time, I might not have an example here live, but you'll see a lot of the time people are even asking for specifically to have spear and great axe users. Particularly, it's a really good overall build. And like I said, when auto group finder does come in, ideally you want every it's empty, it's the middle of the day, every single group is going to want a spear main, and every single group is going to want a great axe offhand. Whether those two are combined, that's up to you. But for me, this is a perfect all-rounder build, and you can just get into groups and lobbies with this really, really easily, combining everything that I've shown you here, combining the weapon perks, combining the actual weapons that we're using there, and the skill trees I've just shown you. Like I said, it's an all-rounder. It's pretty good. But guys, once again, I appreciate you watching this video. If you found this helpful, jump into my Twitch channel. You can jump into chat, drop me a follow now. Link description down below. You'll see it. Just click it, press follow. Jump into my next live stream. Obviously, press a like on the video. Some comment section down below for anything you change or if you found this useful. Drop a sub on the channel as well. Let's get to 4K subscribers. I appreciate if you check out the sponsorship links down below as well if you're interested in those gamer glasses. And guys, I will see you in the next one.